Just over 2 weeks ago, Bondi Beach, one of Australia's most iconic and beloved destinations, became the site of a devastating tragedy that would shake the nation to its core. Known for its golden sands and vibrant community spirit, Bondi has always been a place where people from all walks of life come together to celebrate, relax and enjoy the beauty of the Australian coastline. But on this day, the beach's peaceful reputation was shattered in an instant. Families had gathered to celebrate Hanukkah by the sea, a joyful Jewish festival that brings light and hope during the darkest days of winter. The air was filled with laughter, music, and the warm glow of menorahs as children played in the sand and parents shared stories of tradition and resilience. For many, it was a cherished annual event, a time to connect with community and faith in a place that felt safe and welcoming. But the joy was shattered when two men, Sajid and Naveed Akram, opened fire on the unsuspecting crowd. In a matter of seconds, the celebration turned into a nightmare, as panic swept across the beach and people scrambled for safety. The sound of gunfire echoed over the waves, and the festive atmosphere was replaced by fear and confusion. In those harrowing moments, the sense of security that so many had taken for granted was lost. Families were separated in the chaos, friends desperately searched for loved ones, and the community was left reeling from the sudden violence that had invaded their celebration. 15 innocent people lost their lives that night, each one leaving behind a legacy of love and memories. Among the victims were a 10-year-old girl whose laughter once filled the beach, a Holocaust survivor who had already endured unimaginable horrors, and Rabbi Eli Schlanger, a beloved spiritual leader who brought comfort to so many. Many more were injured, some with wounds that may never fully heal. Hospitals across Sydney worked tirelessly to save lives, while families waited anxiously for news of their loved ones. The scars left by this attack run deep, both physically and emotionally, and the road to recovery will be long for many. The attack was quickly identified as a targeted act of antisemitic terror, sending shockwaves not only through the Jewish community but across the entire nation. Australians everywhere grappled with disbelief and outrage, struggling to comprehend how such hatred could erupt in a place known for its inclusivity and multicultural spirit. Yet, amid the horror, there were also moments of extraordinary bravery. Reuven Morrison, remembered as a hero, sacrificed himself to shield others from harm. His selfless actions, along with those of other bystanders and first responders, saved countless lives and offered a glimmer of hope in the darkest of times. In the aftermath, Bondi Beach, a symbol of Australian openness and unity, was left scarred. The community, once so full of life, now faced the daunting task of healing and rebuilding trust. The sand that had witnessed so much joy now bore silent witness to grief and loss. The tragedy has forced Australia to confront a growing problem: the rise of hate and antisemitism. Vigils, protests, and public discussions have erupted across the country as people demand action and accountability. The nation is now asking itself difficult questions about how to protect its citizens and uphold its values of tolerance and respect. This event has sparked a national conversation about safety, inclusion, and what must change to ensure that all Australians, regardless of faith or background, can live without fear. Community leaders, politicians, and everyday citizens are coming together to seek solutions and to reaffirm their commitment to a more just and compassionate society. The wounds left by this tragedy are deep and the pain is still raw, but the questions it raises are urgent, demanding not only answers, but meaningful change. As the community mourns, it also looks forward, determined to honour the memory of those lost by building a safer, more united future. How do we ensure this never happens again? The answer lies in our collective resolve to stand against hate, to support one another, and to never forget the lessons of that dark day on Bondi Beach. The Bondi attack was called antisemitic, a word that's been in the headlines and on people's minds. But what does it really mean, and why does it matter so much? Antisemitism is more than just a label. It's a form of hatred and discrimination specifically targeting Jewish people, simply because of their identity, beliefs, or heritage. This prejudice can affect anyone who is Jewish, regardless of how religious they are or how they express their culture. It's a bias that has existed for centuries, taking many forms and impacting countless lives. Antisemitism can show up as hateful slurs, harmful stereotypes, threats, vandalism, or even acts of violence. Sometimes it's subtle, like exclusion or jokes, and other times it's shockingly blatant. The consequences have been devastating. The most horrific example is the Holocaust, when 6 million Jews were murdered simply for being who they were. But antisemitism didn't end there. It continues to affect Jewish communities worldwide. In Australia today, many Jewish families feel a growing sense of fear and uncertainty. They worry about their safety, their children, and their place in society. Some have started to hide religious symbols or avoid expressing their identity in public, hoping to protect themselves and their loved ones from harm. Parents worry when their children go to school, and schools increase security to keep students safe. This anxiety is a daily reality for many Jewish Australians, but anti-Semitism isn't just a problem for Jewish people. It threatens the values of fairness, respect, and inclusion that Australians hold dear. When hate is allowed to grow, it puts everyone's safety and freedom at risk. Attacks like the one at Bondi Beach remind us that hate can tear at the fabric of our communities, making everyone feel less safe and less welcome. The Bondi attack was not just against one community, it was an attack on the idea of a safe, inclusive Australia, where everyone should feel they belong. Understanding what anti-Semitism is, where it comes from, and how it affects people is the first step to stopping it. By learning and standing together, we can build a safer, more respectful future for all. In their grief, the families of Bondi's victims have demanded action. 17 families sent a letter to the Prime Minister calling for a Commonwealth Royal Commission, the highest form of public inquiry. They believe only a national investigation can uncover the failures that led to this tragedy and prevent it from happening again. Their plea is clear: listen to our pain and make real, lasting change. This letter marks a turning point, a demand for accountability and safety for all Australians. The families argue that state-level reforms aren't enough. They say that while some changes have been made, these efforts fall short of addressing the true scale of the problem. Many families feel that their voices have not been fully heard, and that the pain and fear they continue to experience is not being met with the urgency it deserves. Anti-Semitism is a national crisis, not just a New South Wales issue. Families point out that hate and violence do not respect state borders, and that the rise in anti-Semitic incidents is being felt in communities across the country. They believe that only a coordinated nationwide response can truly make a difference. Only a federal inquiry can investigate the roles of national security agencies and the spread of extremist ideas online. Families are concerned about how quickly hate can spread through social media and encrypted messaging apps, and they want to know what is being done at the highest levels to stop it. The attackers were inspired by global hate, and the threat crosses state borders. Families worry that international extremist networks are influencing individuals here in Australia, making it even more urgent to have a national approach. Gun law reforms are important, but the root problem is the ideology of hate. Families say that while tightening gun laws can help prevent violence, it does not address the underlying beliefs that motivate these attacks. They want to see education, prevention, and intervention programs that target hate at its source. Unless we address the source of this hatred, future attacks may follow. Families fear that without a comprehensive strategy, the cycle of violence and loss will continue, leaving more communities devastated. The families want a national strategy, not just local fixes. They are calling for leadership from the highest levels of government and for a plan that brings together law enforcement, educators, and community leaders from every state and territory. They believe only a Commonwealth Royal Commission can tackle the full scope of the problem. Such an inquiry, they argue, would have the power to uncover the root causes, hold institutions accountable, and recommend real, lasting solutions. It's about addressing the disease, not just the symptoms. Families want to see a future where their children can live without fear, and where hate has no place in Australian society. For them, nothing less will do. Their determination is unwavering, and they are committed to pushing for change until real action is taken. A Royal Commission is Australia's most powerful public inquiry. It's independent, can compel witnesses and documents, and investigates issues of national importance. Past Royal Commissions have led to major reforms in child protection, banking, and disaster response. The Bondi families want this level of scrutiny for antisemitism. They seek a process that holds institutions accountable and forces real change. A Royal Commission would shine a light on hate, educate the public, and drive a national plan to combat it. It's about answers, justice, and protection for the future. Antisemitism is spreading across Australia. It's not just a local issue. A state inquiry would miss the bigger picture and the connections between incidents nationwide. Only a Commonwealth Royal Commission can investigate the national scope, from online hate to federal laws. It could hold hearings across the country and recommend coordinated action. The Prime Minister worries about delay, but families argue that real solutions require understanding the full problem. Rushing risks missing what truly needs to change. A national inquiry is about building a safer, more united Australia. It's the only way to address a threat that affects us all. The Bondi attack was the worst in a pattern of rising anti-Semitism. Jewish leaders had warned of growing hate, graffiti, harassment, assaults, and online abuse. Synagogues and schools have been vandalized, students and families threatened. Reports show a dramatic spike in incidents, each one making the community feel less safe. The Jewish community has responded with resilience, but the problem is now too big for them alone. Many feel the government's response has been too slow. The Bondi tragedy is seen as the tragic result of hate left unchecked. In the aftermath, grief united the Jewish community and the nation. Thousands gathered at Bondi Beach to mourn and show solidarity. Despite the pain, the community responded with strength, vowing not to let terror win. Hanukkah celebrations continued, sending a message: hate will not break our spirit. Support poured in, counselling, fundraising, and acts of kindness for victims' families. The tragedy also sparked political debate, with some feeling the government hadn't done enough. For many, the fight against anti-Semitism is deeply tied to broader political issues. Grief is mixed with anger and a demand for real action. The community's resilience is a powerful answer to hate. The Bondi tragedy forces us to confront the reality of hate in Australia. The call for a Royal Commission is a call for real change, not just words. Building a safer future means standing up to hate every time we see it. Silence is not an option. We must defend respect and inclusion for all. Education is key, teaching history, empathy, and critical thinking to the next generation. This tragedy tests our national character and demands bold action. We owe it to the victims and their families to build a country where everyone can live without fear. The time to act is now.